How do you know that God is your God? Like, how do you know that the God who can do anything, the God who can do any miracle, the God who can be anywhere, any place, multiple places at the same time, the God who can overcome any enemy, the God who can get anywhere that he needs to be, the God who can provide anything that needs to be provided for you and your family, how do you know that that God is your God? The same way David did. Because that's what he promised to be. And that's what he has proven to be. In Psalm 31, David says, in verse 14, he says, "Yet I will trust in you, my God, because you are my God." And how did David know? If you watched yesterday's video, then you know that David was going through a whole wide range of very, very difficult emotions. Life was really, really hard for him. So he needed a God. He needed a God, somebody who could do things for David that David could not do for David. And then he flips the script. Instead of focusing on the things that were making his life difficult, he focused on his God. And he said with complete confidence, he said, "I trust in you. You are my God." And how did he know that? Because God is who God promised to be for David, and God is who God was proven to be for David. And David himself said that when King Saul was saying to David, when David said, "I'm going to take on the giant, I'm going to take on Goliath," Saul said, "You can't do that. You're just a little boy." And David said, I don't disagree with you, but God was with me when I protected my sheep from the bear and from the lion. And God was with me, and he'll be with me again, because that's what God has promised to be. And then David stepped up just as confidently as he stepped up against the bear and the lion. He stepped up to the giant, and God was proven to be his God again. But this is in a sense how God has always operated. Back in the Garden of Eden, even after Adam and Eve sinned, after they took every good thing that God gave them and they threw it away in just one moment of sinful temptation by giving into that, God came to them and said, "What have you done?" And they tried to hide from him. They were afraid. They were terrified. They thought God was going to punish them. But instead, God made a promise to them. He wasn't just going to be their God. He was going to be the God who saved them. That's what he promised to be. And then fast forward to the cross, when we see the seed of the woman that was promised back in the book of Genesis. We see God fulfilling that promise. He was proven to be the one who saves them. When Moses led the Israelites, God promised that he would be with him. "I am the Lord your God. I will go with you. I will fight for you." That's what he promised. And as Moses and the Israelites were standing safely on the other side of the Red Sea, that's who God had proven to be. When Joshua led the Israelites up to the walls of Jericho, God promised to be the God who was going to save them. Fast forward to the last time they marched around the city, without having to say a word, God was proven to be the God who saved them. Jesus promised his disciples, "Surely I am with you always." Always. That's what he promised them. Before they went out and started churches, before they went out and did missionary work, before they really started spreading the gospel worldwide. And that was going to be a really large task for those 11 apostles that Jesus was giving that promise to. But the proof that he was their God? It's me and you. We've heard the gospel. We've learned about Jesus. Somebody taught us about his love. Somebody shared with us his wonderful promises. And here you are. Here we are together, finding rest in it. Jesus has proven to be a God who was with them. And he is with you too. And in some ways, throughout your life, I'm sure you have seen God fulfill his promise, taking care of you and providing for all that you need and providing things in your life you didn't even know that you would ever desire. But in some ways, I bet you're still waiting for him to fulfill a promise. Your heart might be heavy. It might be empty. Your mind might be filled with worry or anxiety. But then just remember that the God who has promised to be there for you in all things, one day he will finally be proven to be the God who rescues you definitively from everything, even all those things. Jesus gave a little preview of that on Sunday morning, the Sunday after his crucifixion. If you go back to the Thursday of that week, Jesus stood in front of his disciples and he said, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give you." And then later that night, Jesus was arrested. And then overnight, he was convicted wrongfully. Then the next day, he was put on a cross and killed. Then the disciples got scared. They locked themselves in an upper room. They had heard rumors that Jesus had risen from the dead, but nobody had seen him with their eyes. But Sunday night in that room, Jesus appeared to them, not dead, fully alive, and the first word out of his mouth was the word peace. The peace that he had promised them on Thursday. On Sunday night, he had proven his ability to give it to them. The peace of sins having been forgiven, and the peace of knowing that our God can't be stopped by anything. Not sadness, not death, not sickness, not sorrow, nothing. That's your God. That's your God. He promised to be your God. And he has already proven that he always will be. Rest well tonight, my friends.